From NBC News, this is Today with Matt Lauer and Savannah Guthrie. Live from Studio 1A in Rockefeller Plaza.
And good morning. Welcome to Today on a Monday morning. I'm Matt Lauer.
Morning, everyone. I'm Savannah Guthrie. At this point, Jahai Tsarnaev cannot use his voice to respond because of that gunshot wound to the throat, but we're told he is responding to some questioning in writing, but that questioning has been kept very brief.
We can tell you authorities are pressing him for information on the attack. Of course, a primary concern right now, did he and his brother have any help?
Of course, this is 1 week after the bomb blast at the Boston Marathon. Massachusetts Governor Deval Patrick is calling for a moment of silence today at 2:50, the time of that first explosion. And a private funeral will be held today for 29-year-old Crystal Campbell, while a memorial service is planned on the campus of Boston University tonight for 23-year-old graduate student Lindsay Liu.
So where does the investigation stand? Let's get right to Edward Davis, Commissioner of the Boston Police Department. Commissioner Davis, good morning. Nice to see you.
Good morning, Matt.
You've got a suspect in the hospital in critical but stable condition, unable apparently to speak according to Pete Williams, but answering some preliminary questions in writing. Based on those early answers, are you 100% confident that there's no future or further threat to Boston in terms of accomplices or unexploded devices?
Yeah, this is very early in the investigation. We're satisfied that the two main actors, the people who were committing the damage out there, have been either captured and killed. And there is still open question of what happens in this investigation. There are enormous investigative resource has been poured into that right now. We cannot say with 100% certainty that the anything actually of this point.
And back to the older brother Tamerlan Tsarnaev. It's clear now that in 2011, he hit the radar of the FBI. The Russian government contacted the United States that they were concerned about him, that he had changed dramatically and had been radicalized. The FBI interviewed him, but apparently they weren't trouble enough to do anything further. Was the Boston Police Department ever notified about that interview? Was Tamerlan Tsarnaev ever on your radar?
Yes, and we are reviewing our records in the Boston Regional Intelligence Center. We're far closer to the FBI. I don't have any information at this point, but it's certainly part of our inquiry.
But based on the fact that the government of Russia contacted the United States, whether the FBI found something or not, do you think the Boston Police Department should have been made aware of that situation, a guy like that living in your community?
Matt, I don't have any specific information about the international conversation that we're going on, but I can tell you that we are looking at everything, and that certainly would be part of our overview.
Boston Police Commissioner Edward Davis. Mr. Davis, so it's good to see you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Boston Police Commissioner Edward Davis. Thank you very much.
Now we're going to bring Natalie. I know you're following a story out of Washington. It's a sad story.
Another sad story, that's right, Savannah. There was a deadly shooting overnight just south of Seattle. 5 people were killed in an apartment complex Saturday night, including a suspect who was shot by police at the scene. Investigators were looking into what caused the gunfire to break out. And now to the latest on the recovery efforts in West Texas as residents comb through the rubble caused by that fertilizer plant explosion and search for answers. NBC's Gabe Gutierrez remained there on scene with the latest. Gabe, good morning.
Natalie, good morning. Today, more residents are expected to return home. Through police checkpoints like this one, as investigators search for clues at the blast epicenter, many questions linger about how and why this happened. Local authorities say no one is missing. The death toll remains at 14. A public memorial for first responders is now scheduled for late this week.
Gabe Gutierrez once again in West Texas. Thanks so much, Gabe. Airlines are bracing for major delays today across the country as furloughs of some 15,000 rudder air traffic controllers kicked in. A result of government spending cuts, those furloughs went into effect on Sunday, but Monday's traffic is said to be the agency's real test. Rescuers in China are scrambling to reach communities cut off during a massive earthquake on Sunday. At least 188 people were killed and more than 11,000 others were injured in China's Sichuan province. Now let's head to Wall Street. NBC's Mary Thompson said New York Stock Exchange for us. Good morning to you, Mary.
Good morning, Natalie. Gasoline prices drop again. The Lundberg survey says the price for the average gallon of regular gasoline dropped 11 cents over the last 2 weeks. The Senate could vote as soon as this week on a bill that would allow states to tax internet purchases, something that would add $11 billion to state coffers. And Wall Street gets back to work today after the Dow's worst weekly decline since June. Back to you.
All right, Mary Thompson and New York Stock Exchange, thanks. In Great Britain, the Duchess of Cambridge, Kate Middleton, appeared in public Sunday with her pregnancy more evident than ever. She stood in for Queen Elizabeth at a review for Scouts while the Queen celebrated her 87th birthday in private. The Duchess and her husband, Prince William, are expecting their first child this summer. For all of those who are in royal baby bump watch. Yeah, if you've been living under a rock, did you know?
I have to say, when you said her name, I perked up and I was trying to squeeze into the monitor because I wanted to see the bomb.
Yeah, she looks beautiful.
Yes, she
certainly
does.
Natalie, thank you very much. Mr. Roker's got more on Midwest flooding and local forecast.
That's right, Natalie got a lot of good news from the friendly Midwest, and winter won't let go. We got a frontal system behind it, a lot of snow, a lot of cold air in the plains ahead of it, a lot of wet weather. We're looking from Sheridan all the way up to Duluth, about 6 to 9 inches of snow. We're going to have the local forecast in just a moment, but first, there's message.
7:30 now on a Monday morning. It's the 22nd of April, 2013. As we say hello to the crowd outside the plaza. Good morning to you. I'm Savannah Guthrie. On my side is Matt Lauer.
And also, how the search for the Boston bombers was carried out in a way we haven't really seen before. Right in the middle of a digital revolution, the internet, social media playing key roles. And while it was successful and also highlighted some problems we have to deal with, we're going to get into that with the influential head of Google.
And then we're going to take a turn and see how motherhood is treating Jenna Bush Hager and what being 9 days in. Well, we'll find out more about her experiences and see some new pictures of baby Mila. But we're going to start this half hour with some of the legal issues surrounding the arrest of the surviving Boston bomber suspect, Jahia Tsarnaev. Lisa Bloom is today's legal analyst. Lisa, good morning to you. So we understand that he is responding to the extent he can in writing, and that officials are citing what's known as the public safety exceptions so that they don't have to read him his Miranda rights right away. As time passes, does the justification for that exception grow weaker? Are they on, I guess, less strong grounds?
Well, it sure does, because as you know, Miranda rights are a bedrock constitutional principle. We all have the right to remain silent, to get an attorney, and to be advised of those rights. The public safety exception is a very narrow exception. There has to be an imminent threat to the public. As the clock keeps ticking, hours and days pass, it certainly seems less imminent.
And don't officials who are going out there and saying the terror's over, we think they acted alone, don't they kind of undercut that argument? And does it really matter in the end?
This is certainly an argument that's going to be handed to this defendant's defense attorney when that time comes, that there have been these contradictory statements made, that there is no public threat, there is no ticking bomb, thank goodness, apparently, based on what we know so far. So we're giving them an argument to use later.
But then the issue is, even under this public safety exception, the questioning that's permitted without Miranda is very limited in scope, correct?
Yes, it's about what the public threat is. It's not all of the basis and the background and the motive question.
And that's what brings me to this issue that's pervading in Washington now. There are some national security Republicans who say we should treat the suspect not as criminal suspect, but as an enemy combatant. So there could be a more wide-ranging interview.
An enemy combatant, as the phrase implies, arose in times of war, when we capture somebody on a battlefield. Well, as the nature of war has evolved, we're now in a war on terror. Some are saying that that definition should be changed. But this is an American citizen captured on American soil, an American crime. I don't see him as an enemy combatant. I don't think the courts will either.
The American citizen may be treated as enemy combatant, but they will have to have some connection to Al-Qaeda in order to meet that classification.
And that's right, and I don't see that here. Do we want this to be a creative, precedent-setting case, or do we want to treat them like the hundreds of other terrorists who've been successfully tried and convicted on American soil?
Our legal analyst, Lisa Bloom, great to have you here. Thank you. We'll switch gears and we'll check out the weather from Al.
Today's weather is brought to you by Centrum, the most recommended, preferred, and studied multivitamin brand.
As we look at you, we've got a good-looking people here. Vanna Gessett, High School Music. Very nice. Okay, let's see what we've got for you. We've got some rough weather recently. Rapid City, you have the snowiest April on record. You are heading for a previous April record, 30.6 back in 1970, 43 years ago. You're gonna bring that pretty bit. Now, as we look to Chicago, record rainfall for April so far, April 7.8 for today. And we're gonna come very close to breaking that record back in 1947. And down in Miami, they're looking at white April as well. Record rainfall, 10.43 inches in 1960. We're gonna bust it today, no doubt about it. Rest of the country, we expect to see a beautiful day to Southern California. We expect to see a beautiful day here in the Northeast and along the Eastern Seaboard. That's what's going on around the country. Here's what's happening in your neck of the wood. And don't forget to meet the weather on Earth Day anytime and here at night. Go to the Weather channel on cableweather.com online. Matt?
Mr. Roker, thank you. Just ahead, the internet's impact on the hunt for the Boston Marathon bombers, the good and the bad. We'll get into that with the head of Google.
And Oscar winner Reese Witherspoon on the red carpet following her arrest for disorderly conduct. But first, this is Today on NBC.